Welcome to another episode of Trendy Mom Talks with Roselyn. And this episode, we continue our conversation on navigating motherhood and work from the perspective of an immigrant. We still have a beautiful Olutoyin Williams to have this conversation. So you say hi.
Hi. Lovely to be back in the studio with you, Roselyn. I absolutely love Trendy Mom Talks and how vulnerable and real we get in sharing our experience for the benefit of your listeners.
Thanks, Toyi. I was just about to say that in the last episode where we talk about finding our identity as an immigrant, that we were so open and told you the things that worked for us, which you might take. And so in this episode, we understand that we are in a new country without any familiar support system. And this is what affects, I don't have the percentage, but probably 90% of immigrant working moms.
Yeah.
You know, back home, we had a support system. I like to always call it my village supported me, of close family, nanny, driver, whatever help you could afford. And even if you couldn't afford, you always have a close relation come live with you and help you through. So you always find a way to cope. Yeah. But in this new environment, those supports, it's not that they don't exist, but they are terribly expensive.
You have to be innovative about finding that support.
Absolutely. Tell me about it. So today we're going to discuss the mental load, the adjustment required, how to build a new support system. And I'd just like to say our episode is the mental load.
Yeah.
Managing without a support system. Yeah. So back to our conversation, Toyi. Coming from an environment that we had extensive support, how did you mentally, let me not say how, let me say, did you mentally prepare for the life here that you know you would either not have that support or it would be very limited? Did you think about it? Did you have a plan?
I mean,
how did you go about it?
Full disclosure, Roselyn, I remember when we were in the process of discussing that we were going to come, my husband said to me that this is going to be really a change. And I'm like, oh, wow, how? And he said, you're not going to have your nanny. There's no driver. There's no housekeeper. There's no grandma. So how are you going to go? I'm like, how am I going to cope? How am I going to cope? Me to cope is how are we going to cope? It's not an I situation. It's not an I situation. It's a
we talked about it. I can't even remember if I had that kind of conversation. I was just focused on achieving the target.
We did. And that's because, full disclosure as well, I'm not very domesticated. I remember from the very first day of marriage, it's not like we even had kids. We had a house. I was just not going to do any of that. I grew up with nannies, right? So for me, having...
Darling, soft life is a beautiful thing. Nails pimping.
There's just no... It didn't occur to me that for a time in my life, I would have to pick up those things. Because grew up with nannies, got married and had a housekeeper. And it wasn't like, we were outrageously rich. Someone could be listening to this and think, maybe she's a trust fund baby. She's a Dangote's daughter-in-law. No, I'm just a regular person who just arranged things in such a way that I could prioritize on focusing on my primary identity, which was work, if you remember from the first episode. So by the time we were then moving, we were been married for 15 years or thereabouts. So it's been like all of our life. And now we have 3 kids. We've always had that village to support us. So that was the only conversation we had about it. And he was like, you know what, I'll help you. We would do it together. And of course, I held him up to that. We would do it together because there was just no way I was going to then start washing toilets. Like there are some things I can't do. I can't do it. And funny thing, I used to love to wash the bathrooms when I was younger, but I'd outgrown that a long time ago. So it was having just that one conversation. But even that one conversation did not mentally
solve it. So when you experience it, you probably think having the conversation would probably prepare your mind again. But when you find yourself in the thick of it, it's a different ball game.
It's a different ball game. I remember, and I'll share this very one experience very quickly. I remember one day, my husband coming back from work, and from the minute he stepped into the house, I was ballistic. Like I was that day. It was that day that I knew that I will come to that point around self-care. That was my breaking point. I'm sure I spoke for more than 2 hours. I went on.
What happened?
I went on and on and on. It was, obviously my cup was full. My cup was full. I was half crying, half mad, half hanged because everything came to me.
I can relate. You were overwhelmed.
I was overwhelmed.
That's the word.
I was overwhelmed. The minute he stepped into the house, it was like, I just let it all out, and everything was the problem. The house, the distance, the pickups, the cooking, the shopping, the this, the that, the cold, everything came out that day. And that triggered me into then looking after myself, which we'll talk about later. So you're not mentally prepared enough for it. That's a key factor that needs to be addressed. If you're listening to this episode and you're thinking, I want to travel, I want to move out of my home country next year, 6 months time, please, you really need to listen to this episode over and over again so that you can start to put down pen on paper. What does support look like? What would my life look like? So to answer your question, I wasn't fully ready. I wasn't ready.
The truth is that, I think I always pride myself as I can do it all. There's no water you throw me into, I can't swim through, and blah, 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 blah. But I also wasn't mentally ready. I did try to do the things that worked for me. Back home, of course, I had the support, the driver, the nanny. I had my cousin living with me. So I was really supported, and I could do every and anything I wanted to do at my time. Yeah. And whatever little time I had with my kids, I made sure I made the best of it, gave them the best. And then back here, we're all together. I had to do what works. Yeah. I now started finding, and that's when we're going to have to talk about this. Everyone has to find what works for them. So when I came here, my youngest was 7 and my oldest was, I think, 12 she was 13. I think so, about that. Either 12 or 13. It became a hands-on affair. Everyone had to pitch in what they could do. So after the few months of me cleaning up, like you said, you don't like toilets, cleaning up the toilet, sweeping, cooking, shopping, I called my crew. I told them, Mommy,
was a village meeting.
Mommy cannot cope doing all this. Like, if you want Mommy to be still strong enough and play or sit with you guys, not every time I want to sleep. I'm tired. Yeah. Then we have to share this. We just had that conversation. And that's how we shared the tasks. So people picked picking, sweeping, other piece, my other kid. And thankfully I had a bit older. I don't know how people with younger family copes, and I probably will have to find someone to come share their experience. And then one of them started learning how to wash the toilet and bathroom, of course, that they use, and I did the other heavy bulk, which became like, I try to shop just once a week. So when I'm going out to shopping, I'll scream it out. If you don't tell me what you need now, once I'm done, I'm not going back to the shop, and then I now adopted, I cook in bulk. So whatever I want to cook, I know I'm not cooking just for one meal. I just cook more than enough and then push it into the fridge or freezer. Thankfully, we have light, so we don't have to deal with all that. So I just try to look at what works, what part of the time, what pick up, as in what can I do? Basically broke it down. Yeah. But it still didn't help my mental space, You know that we are always calculating, thinking ahead, planning. Yeah. It still didn't help. It was really a lot. And so many times, I would when my support structure from my driver to my nanny call to check in on me, I'll keep telling them, thank you. Thank you.
You appreciate it even more than ever. Amazing. Oh, amazing! I'll share my bit of that. So, like you, I from early on, because my husband had said, and he's fortunately more domesticated than I am, so he had said he was going to support me with The things that I absolutely hated, I would not touch. Like the washing of the bathrooms, I would not touch it. I would cook, I would shop, I would not clean as well. I do not like to clean, but I'll cook and shop and I would try and smile. In the beginning, it was tough. It was tough to smile because remember, this was the same phase that we were dealing with the identity crisis, and now we have to do the house as well. So just being very honest and vulnerable, I had a really rough few months. And of course, because you can imagine if I, as a mom and as a parent, had been supported to that extent, the kids were over supported. They don't know how to make their beds. They don't pick up after themselves. The only thing I think we were doing in Nigeria was you have to move your plate to the kitchen. Like, they can't give you your food and come and clear it from the table. Like, you're not at that level. No, move your plate to the kitchen. So we now had to get to the point where my kids were doing chores and it was hard for them. It was hard for me to make them do it because I didn't want to do it. And they obviously didn't want to do it because I wasn't doing it. But I was shouting and saying, you need to get it done because I'm not going to do it. So there will be days I'll be like, you know what, I'm not cooking if the kitchen is not clean. I'm not cooking if there is any plate that is dirty in the sink. I'm not doing any of that. And then, we had that family meeting as well on my end. And we then decided as a family, you know what, we're going to get external support to help with cleaning the house. So we had someone who's coming in once a week and she does the cleaning of the whole house every time she comes in. But that doesn't mean that we will have plates from yesterday. So we started putting those rules in place as well. There are no dirty things left in the kitchen overnight. All of the countertops are clean. Now, we had to do a roster. So there were days that my eldest would do it. There were days that my youngest would do it. My middle child would do it. And then my youngest, right now, she's still a bit of a free ride. But then we started getting her involved in taking out the clean plates. Then we got a dishwasher as well. We didn't have a dishwasher when we came. So even with dishwasher, you know how kids were really excited that dishwasher has come to save them. But somebody needs to load the dishwasher and somebody needs to offload it.
To remove it out.
Who is going to do that? So we got that going as well. And I found a market where I could do my shopping. And I do it in 6 months. Once I've gone there once in 6 months. We've been here now over a year, so I've gone there. We've been here a year and 6, so I've been gone there thrice now. And when I buy, the beauty about that is because I have an external chest freezer, apart from it standing. So getting the right gadgets that will support your life, it's not a luxury. It's not a luxury. It was a no-brainer that we had to store because there was just no way. And then maybe we are also very foodies. All of us are foodies. We love to eat. We weren't going to compromise on food. I love to eat good food. I love to cook.
I love to eat too.
Exactly.
Good food.
There was no way
spicy one.
You were going to spend 2 hours out of every day cooking. So like you, I quickly woke up to the fact that I needed to shop in bulk and store. And then when I need to cook, I then cook in bulk and store as well. So that if there's jollof rice in the freezer, go and fry plantain. If there's no plantain, please eat your rice and chicken. Don't bother me. There's just there were some things that we really needed to wake up and say, you know what, that may not happen the way you want it to. So you need to adjust, and that works for us. Of course, it's still a work in progress because there are days we're like, oh, why is the house scattered? Why is this not being done? Okay, let's turn off the TV. Let's all get it done. In 5-10 minutes, we're all done. And I really needed to learn to be patient with myself and with the kids. Remember we mentioned in the last episode, they also migrated. This is new for them. So I hope you, dear listeners, will take this away with you. It's new for your whole family. So you have to be patient with them as you're patient with yourself. Okay, you know what? Let's do it together. In doing it together, we got the opportunity to have quality time. So that's how I found my balance. And then, we also talked about creating routines. Do you want to talk a bit about that, Rose?
Yes, I was just going to say that before I even go to creating routine, that my husband would always say, this place is a leveler. So, because we had so much support, oftentimes back home, my husband would just do the little bit, but not the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
But here is a leveler. By the time you see everyone needs to put in, your spouse too would have to also contribute.
Yeah.
So, and when you talked about be patient with yourself, be patient with yourself, be patient with your spouse. Some of the time they will not even remember that today is the day for
To take out the
taking
bin.
out the bin. Don't lose it. You understand? And it's okay if you even forget to take out the bin and they don't pick it up in another 2 weeks. I mean,
It's
what's
not
the
the
worst
end
thing
of
that
the
will
world.
happen?
It's a
The
big
bin will
bill.
just be overfilled,
It's a big
you
bill.
know?
Yeah.
There are times that your kids might eat and completely forget, I'm supposed to wash my dish. We have agreed. We said we'll wash out the dish, or we have agreed that today is Miss Minnie's turn to wash. Be patient with them. Understand that it's a process they're also trying to
Yeah.
get to know. And
Absolutely.
then we also created a routine, especially when you have children that are still dependent on you. And like I keep telling Tony again and again, I think we're blessed to even have children that are a bit grown, that at least they can listen to
They're
simple
able to
instruction as
support. Yeah.
go dress your bed, go arrange
Yeah.
your wardrobe and all
Absolutely.
that, go pick up your
Absolutely.
shoes. But when you
Absolutely.
have infants and very little ones, it becomes a very, very different ball game. But however, another thing we did was to create a routine. So we had, during school time, we had our bedtime. You go to
Yeah.
bed by 9
Yeah.
so that you have enough sleep. You know that morning drama of wake up. You wake up, and once you turn your back, okay, go and change so that you can dress up for school. They go back to sleep.
I'm
So
telling you.
I have known from childhood that early to bed,
I
early
need
to
to
rise
ride.
makes a man healthy and strong. So I created that. So on Saturday we have a routine. Who puts in the clothes in the washing machine? Who brings it out and dry? So we had routine. Oh, we wash once or twice a week. We do our cleaning these days. Oh, when you come back from school, these are the things you need to do. You have to pick up on your studies. You and have dinner,
Yeah.
eat, pick
Yeah.
up on the studies for at least spend 1 or 2 hours. And the days they had maybe some piano practice or musical practice. So those routines became ingrained in their minds after a while, and it
Yeah.
helped. So I'm not chasing anyone, especially them,
Yeah.
after school.
Yeah.
In doing all this, the only person that got to suffer that probably didn't get to have a routine
Was me.
was me,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it still boils back to what I started when I started saying that I did think that I could do everything. I'm always able. And then
The superwoman.
the superwoman, the superwoman lost her wings
I'm telling
and
you.
crumbled.
I'm telling
And that
you.
takes us to the third thing, which is self-care. So we've talked about finding out what works for you, because when you don't have the structure, when you don't have the normal support structure, we've also mentioned creating a routine that works for your family. And it's okay if you're a family that don't have children, but just have the routine. It can be dinner with your spouse once a week, or just sitting in to catch on movies. But whatever routine works for you that would keep your mental space, make it work. Or just having laundry together with your spouse when you're catching up on whatever it is, really. Let it work. The last part, which we'll both talk about, is self-care. So like I was saying, the superwoman lost her wings and crumbled and couldn't help anyone. And then she suddenly realized that she needed a routine for herself. She needed a time to shut down. She needed a time to prioritize herself. And that's exactly what I did. So if you are in a new country, after all said and done, you found out what works for you, you've created the routine for your children. Please don't be like Toya and I. Toya will share her own experience. Okay, she already talked about it. Don't be like Toya and I and place yourself last. You are literally the engine that runs the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you should actually be first on the list. And I remember a quote by Michelle Obama. You get to prioritize everyone except you. So, but this is the reminder on this episode that in building that support structure, prioritize you. Let every other thing come after you place yourself and mental care above. Toyin, let's hear you.
I mean, I love it. I love what you've shared so far, Rose. Especially, so let's start with the mental constructs that we women have around prioritizing ourselves. You know, moving into a new country, you're thinking, I need to make sure everybody is sorted, kids are in school, I'll get a job, husband is doing well, we've rented a house, location isn't too far, we've got a car, or we're taking the bus, we know the bus routes and things like that. So that all of that happens, and then we need to have those routines for cooking, because we can't be eating McDonald's every day. So you at least you cook 1 or 2 meals there is that arrangement in place. In the beginning, I wasn't. In fact, I remember, you know how before you leave, before you come, you've done your nails, you've probably done your lashes if you had the lashes doing tight. And I remember looking at my nails one day and thinking, you know what? I think that I can't even. How much was it anyway? 30 pounds? 30 pounds? 30 pounds?
Are you do the bad thing of 30 times? What's that exchange
I'm
rate?
telling you, you're calculating.
And you now say, no way.
Wait,
I can
please,
spend.
we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore. That has gone. But guess what?
Oh,
When I had that episode with my husband, and he came in that day, and I went on for 2 hours just letting out steam. That was my trigger that I needed to prioritize my self-care. And I really needed to go back to what were the things that made me me. And I'm saying this because we all have different things that makes you you. You know what makes you you. I know what makes me me. I've been doing wax, massage, body treatment since I was 16. Literally, that's my life. Like, it's not a luxury, it's part of the package. It's an integral part of the package. But then got into this country, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. I hadn't gone for any wax. I hadn't gone for any massage. No wonder I was ready to burst. I was ready to burst because I was constantly calculating and changing the currency and saying, oh my God, this is crazy. This is expensive.
that's another mental load we don't need.
Huge mental load. But you know that day,
Live in the present, kind of.
after I had that episode, I went, started doing my nails back. I haven't done my lashes because, again, I'm thinking, that's not. I'm fine with my mascara for now. But if I need to go out, I will get that done. But my nails, my mani, my pedicure, my body wax, my body massage, I do the whole thing. Not because obviously somebody listening to this will say, oh, who knows how much she's earning? Maybe she's working 3 jobs. No. For the records, I do not work 2 jobs because I have a family to care for. But guess what? It is as important as savings. You know how you prioritize your savings? My body treatment, my wax, my massage, my eyebrow wax, my facials, my nails, my manicure, my pedicure is as important as my savings. So it's a non-negotiable. But some woman listening to this might say, but my husband, you need to have that conversation. If you need to have that conversation, you need to have that conversation.
And I know I always say that it's not a one size fits all. Yours might be a whole lot different. Your self-care,
Absolutely.
whatever works, might just be movie, might just be staying in bed all day.
Movies, it might be
reading a novel. It might just be sleeping and a very unusually long hour. It might be exercise. It might be taking the long walks. But what we both are saying is, one of the things you would need for your mental health being is to prioritize yourself.
You have to.
And the word we have not mentioned on this episode, which we're itching towards, is burnout is real. It's real for both working mothers. It's real for stay-at-home moms.
Absolutely.
It's real for immigrant mom. It's real because we're trying to do so much when we only have 2 hands. So, and when you completely burn out, sometimes you're down in a dark hole and it takes you months to even bring yourself back up.
Yeah.
So please prioritize yourself.
Absolutely.
I think I'll also like to add, what has also helped me is when you start looking at yourself, it's gratitude journaling. When you start looking at how far you've come, in the last episode when we talked about losing your identity, when you think of how many people were reporting to you, your next big role, and now that is completely gone. And we mentioned that that too can sink you down into a deep hole.
Absolutely.
But in journaling your gratitude, every day looking for something that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
It can be just the fresh breath air, or back home. I mean, we both live in Lagos, right?
Yeah.
You have the hooting of the car, the constant horning that most times want to send you crazy. That's something I'm grateful for, that I don't get to hear that. Yeah. There are a lot of things I'm grateful for, that I can walk into a particular place and buy things in bulk, and I don't have to walk through the mud. You remember mile 12 now? and the lights. So look for the things that you're grateful for. The fact that you can just walk your children to school, because school here are always, it has to be close home, walkable distance.
Yeah.
I don't have my children don't have to sit in traffic for hours to go to school. So every day,
There's
look for the
something to be
things
grateful for.
to be grateful for. Try to write it down. If you have the patience, try to sit down to reflect. You would understand that life is in circle. You will find out that the experiences are connected and all that. So that would be the 4 things we would leave with you today, which is find out what works for you. And even if it's buying food, yes, it's expensive here. There are people that are going to cook African meals for you at a cut note.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yes.
If you're comfortable with eating pizza and the likes, fine. But whatever works for you, please do it.
Guilt-free. Guilt-free. Do it guilt-free.
Guilt-free is the word. Guilt-free is the word. Create the routine. Prioritize your self-care and journal gratitude. Toyi, did I miss out anything, or do you want to?
No, I think you covered it all. I think our listeners have a lot to reflect on. And thank you so much, Rosalind, for facilitating these really deep conversations, because these aren't things you can Google. These are not experiences that you would find on Google.
Trust me,
and
Toyi,
I know that our listeners
struggled through it, and we were there for each other. So, and that's why, in fact, that's the reason why this conversation started. We both struggled through it, both when we lost our mental health, when we're completely burnt out, when we're struggling. So we did find that space between each other to be able to speak freely and not be judged. And so we did think if we share our experience, you, our dear listener, will find something.
Thank you.
All right,
so
on
much.
this, thank you for listening to this episode. Just to remind you that wherever you are in the world, just know that you can build your own support structure with what you have. So thank you for listening to this episode. And the next episode, we will be talking about what settling in really means. Don't miss it.
Absolutely. Don't miss it.
See ya.
Then bye.